Hey guys, welcome back to the most sarcastic-y and remarky show of all time. This is Sarcastic Remarks alongside Chris to my right, James to my left. My name is Ryan Chambers. Thank you to BetterHelp and DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor for this episode. As always, we appreciate them for their support. Use that promo code THPN the next time you use their services. Guys, it was about the right time to do an episode, and it was an exciting couple of games for the preseason. We got some other stuff to talk about as well. How are y'all doing this fine Monday evening?
First of all, bang! What a shot! I mean, we're gonna get into it later, but man, that Bishop guy is pretty good at hockey.
Well, let's just jump right into that. Why don't we? Because we can talk about some of the other stuff later. But so, Chris, talking about Liam Bishop, obviously that seems to be the first big storyline coming out of the first two games of the preseason. The first game, he was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely was the best player on the ice for the Dallas Stars, and that was a welcome sign, at least for me, based off of the two games that we saw him play in Traverse City against the Detroit Red Wings prospects. So that was very nice to see. Tonight was a little bit more back to earth for me, but like you said, he does get the literally 0.1 seconds remaining in the third period. Big boy slapper. He goes and just mauls one of the Colorado players, just goes after him. And it wasn't even all that bad. He's just like, oh, you want to shove me? Okay, I'm just going to sit on top of you and just punch you until your face goes into the ice. It was so much fun watching him the last two games.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is making a crazy case to stay on the NHL roster right now. I mean, like you said, that first game was really a defensive masterclass. He had like 22 minutes time on ice in that first game. Several amazing plays that he made, especially the one you think of is the 2-on-1 that he breaks up. And then not only does he make the good play and uses his big size and his massive reach, he actually turns it up the ice and turns it into offense as well. So his main deal is stay-at-home strong defender guy, but he's got the mitts to make plays at the other end of the ice too, which is shocking for a guy of that size.
Yeah, I mean, he's massive when you look at him too. It's something that like I will never get over. It's especially with like Hakanpää as well. You notice these players and they're like a little like bigger than the rest of the people on the ice, but when you realize how big the people on the ice are, it becomes ridiculous how big he is.
Yeah, the other thing that the reason you notice that more with Bishop is he uses that size to his advantage so much. He knows that's a big factor in him being a great hockey player, and he uses it. Like that poke check on the 2-on-1, the hits that he's making, the standing up at the blue line. I mean, he uses every ounce of his massive frame, and he uses it extremely well.
All right, so what I think we should do, I think this would be a good comparison, and just to kind of talk through it a little bit. Let's compare this to Harley a little bit and what we saw from Harley when he was going through his preseason games before he exploded onto the scene. I don't remember a lot of this kind of stuff from Harley when Harley was, going through his first couple of training camps. So it is interesting to look at it from that aspect. But at the same time, when you look at what Liam Bishop has done as basically being on the top pairing defenseman role for the last two preseason games, which was awesome to watch. What's the logical thing to do here? I mean, does he really have a chance to be on the NHL night roster? Because I don't see it. Or are you most people and then you kind of lean towards he needs to be a number one defenseman for the Texas Stars this year and go after that part of his game and really explode onto that scene before he comes up to the NHL? I mean, is he really ready?
Yeah, he's been amazing to start, and that's where everyone wants to compare Bishop to Harley and to say, oh, yeah, he's great. He's very good. He probably could do it now, but look what happened to Harley. We put him down there. He built so much, and he turned into this top, probably our number 2 defenseman on the team is what he turned into after having that stint in the AHL. It's getting harder and harder to make that case because of how well he's playing already at this level. You do have to pump the brakes. The first 2 games he's played in, he's been against the prospects of either team. But, man, he's looked like he looks like the way Stankoven and Johnston looked out there tonight. Like, obviously, those guys were not the prospects, but he is still a prospect. So I think it doesn't make sense contract wise. They have Lundqvist on a deal. He's going to get a shot. And I think it's going to be the 3 right-handers on the right side, the 3 left-handers on the left side, and they're going to see how that goes at least for a little bit. What this tells me, though, is that Bischel's probably starting in the AHL, but he's definitely not going to end the season in the AHL. I think Cedar Park should not count on him for any playoff games that they have.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 players are like very different in contrast as well. I mean, Harley was always like this puck moving defenseman that was really confident in the offensive zone, but you got him in the defensive end and he was lost. I mean, he could not do it, and that was obvious. And that was a big reason why he went down to the AHL and stayed there for so long. But I mean, with Bischel, it's a completely different story. The way he plays the game is completely different. He's not looking to stick handle and dance around people. He's just a big, hard hitting defenseman is what he is. And he's incredible at it, at least for his age, especially. At the very least, he's going to be terrifying to play against.
He is absolutely going to be terrifying to play against. I don't know how many more AHL games he gets in, but I would assume if the plan is for him to go to the AHL and be the top dog there on the blue line, he might get into 1 or 2 more before before he gets sent down to the AHL for their training camp down there in Cedar Park. So, and all the comparisons between him and Harley, like they both have, top 4 quality, even top 2 quality potentials that you see out of both of their games. As much as we compare the 2 guys, that they are at very different levels, at the same age. Like if you look at them when they're both 21 or they're both 20 or whatever, it feels that Bischel, I'm still trying to figure out how to say his name correctly, but it's almost like he is more well-rounded than Thomas Harley was when Thomas Harley came up. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a positive step for Bischel in that aspect, but Harley has grown his defensive game and has gotten a lot better at that aspect. So I still think I just don't see it this season. Trust me, I would love for him to be on the big boy squad this year. I just don't see it with the logjam they have on the left side. If that's really what they're trying to go with lefty righties, which based off of the first 2 games of the preseason, that's exactly what they've done. So,
and he's playing a little bit on his right side. I think I saw him a couple times on his right side tonight. So that's definitely something that's getting thrown out there, at least for a little bit here. And you also want to remember Heiskanen is fully comfortable playing on his right side. So maybe it becomes Heiskanen and Harley are your first pair. Lindell bumps up a spot, and look at that. You got a left-handed defenseman spot open pretty easily as well. So I think there's a couple ways Bischel could get in there. And it's really going to be up to Lundqvist to keep him out of the NHL, really. And I think Lundqvist is going to get that chance almost no matter what happens in this preseason.
Yeah, it's really starting to feel like if anyone goes out, then Bischel is in for sure. I mean,
absolutely.
Even with Brendan Smith right there, if you have the cap space for it, they'll pull him up and play him, man.
100% agreed. And they do right now. They got a little extra wiggle room that they didn't have last year. So it's much more likely that they'd call him up even morning of, maybe they might call him up to play a game in Dallas, which is something we didn't see at all last year. We barely got to see Bork last year when he deserved way more games than 2.
Very fair. That is true. Okay. We've talked a lot about Bischel, but there's lots of other aspects of the first 2 games that we need to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about, and again, it is preseason, but the play of Hellberg and the play of all the goalies that we've seen in the first 2 preseason games have been, more than I expected, to be completely honest with you. So that gives me a lot more hope compared to last year when we basically had to ride Scott Wedgwood into the ground until he physically could not play another game because Ottinger was out. And they had to rely on that one game from Matt Murray, and he got his shutout, which is great and everything. But it's nice to have a third guy like Magnus Hellberg. And gives you a little bit more confidence, at least as a Stars fan, and at least even again, it's just a preseason game, but the coaching staff watching that and being like, he made some big saves tonight. He made some huge saves tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And Casey DeSmith in that first game was shockingly good. A disc golf fanatic, by the way, so I'm sure he'll love the DFW area for his disc golf adventures. But he looked like a potential starting goalie in the NHL during that start. I mean, he was kicking everything to the corners, holding on to so many pucks. I mean, he maybe gave up a couple of rebounds, but he looked fantastic and more than ready to take on any kind of workload that Pete DeBoer wants to give him. Hellberg looked good. He definitely gives up a little bit more rebounds, but when you're that big, like it almost doesn't matter as much. That's how he was actually a goalie for New Jersey when the Stars got one of those crazy 50-shot games where they lose to a backup. And the reason you get so many of those shots is because he doesn't hold on to any. So they're all falling right in front of him, and you can whack at him, but you're just gonna hit the same brick wall. It reminds me of Duncan from those commercials with the walrus in net. Like he's not gonna hold on to a rebound, but good luck getting it past him.
Yeah, I mean the goaltending looks nice. I like Poirier because he's got kind of an attitude to him. I mean he's got some sass back there in net, but I mean it looks very solid. It's exactly what you want to see from preseason games.
Yep, and I think on the forward side, obviously you have to look at Logan Stankoven. I mean, if there is any doubt that he was not going to be on the starting night roster for the Dallas Stars, I think that's probably gone by this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew he was going to be on the opening night roster, just like we know that Bork is going to be on the opening night roster. I would be like phenomenally shocked if he's not. But Stankoven, these past two games has just been extraordinary. He obviously looked a step ahead of everybody else. He looked like one of the best players on the ice. And when you're trying to show that you firmly deserve that spot that they're basically giving you, I mean, he did that in the last two games. He's been the best player offensively for the Stars.
Yep, and we finally see the line that we started talking about like 2 years ago. And that's the Johnston, Stankoven, Bork line, and it looked great. I mean, those guys were obviously head and shoulders above anybody else in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Bork on tonight especially is just all over the score sheet for getting penalties on him.
Yeah.
He took 3, so that shows you how much he is working, especially
Drew 3.
Yeah, Drew 3. Sorry, especially when you see the type of penalties that were taken tonight. There's a lot of hookings, a lot of weird interference calls. Wish there weren't as many penalties tonight, but that's okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, you kind of understand that though. I mean, both teams want to see how their special teams kind of does against the other team's special teams. It's just part of camp. Although I was a little surprised that there were 3 5-on-3s tonight. I was a little shocked by that.
I can't remember the last time I saw 2 5-on-3s in a game.
Yeah, I know. I remember we had at least one last year in the regular season. There was at least one, and the Stars had one, and the other team had one as well. I don't remember which game that was last year, but I do remember that there was at least one that happened. So,
and even more shocking, the Stars got a power play goal and had a bad night on the power play. Terrible.
It shouldn't have even gotten to the Bishop kaboom, if that makes any sense. The amount of power plays that they had, they probably should have ended this game a long time ago.
Yeah, and that kind of gets me to one thing I wanted to bring up with y'all is that Lundqvist actually led defenseman in time on ice tonight. He had 23-14. There was also 7 power plays for the Stars, which probably helps with that when he's our number 1 puck mover for defenseman in the lineup tonight. And to get that much time on the power play and to only get 1 in on a 5-on-3, he made a good play on that one, to be fair. I mean, it's a good shot on the pad. He knew what he was doing there. That wasn't a shot to score. That was a shot to get a rebound. But I don't know. I still don't love it, especially when you see Bixel right there next to him.
I didn't think he played bad the last 2 games. He played better than I expected him to. But again, look at the competition that he's playing against. But, he did what he was supposed to. Now, the the one thing that was frustrating was in the first preseason game, the one gaff that they had, he was the reason why that the goal went in. He made a bad play defensively. He got beat, and it led to a turnover by him behind his own net, and poor Hilberg didn't stand a chance on that at all. So it is what it is. I still do not see Nils Lundqvist being in the top 6 on this team. I don't see it, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and it makes it especially tough when, like, you said he didn't do anything like terrible. He hasn't looked awful, but you have Liam Bixel right next to you, who is much younger, is much more untested, and is playing much better than you, at least in these past 2 games.
Yeah, that's what's been difficult for me, is just seeing the foil of those two right next to each other. It just makes me want Bishop even more. And we're going to pronounce his name every way possible, by the way, tonight.
Yeah, we're going for it. But I mean, they're both players of different skill too. I mean, he is obviously a lot better than Lundqvist, but it's just seeing them next to each other, like you said, Chris, makes it really tough for Lundqvist to like have a say that he should be in the lineup.
It's tough to be excited for him too, starting the season.
So we've kind of gone on to this a little bit. So let's talk more about some of the deep pairings that we've seen, because that's been another big storyline going into training camp, was what kind of deep pairings are we going to see? And for the most part, we have seen a lot of lefties on the left, righties on the right. That's mostly what we've seen, which is exactly what we expected. So one of the things I saw on Twitter, I think it was The Athletic, they were ranking the left side D, in accordance with all 32 teams in the NHL, and they were doing the same with the right. And the Stars were first on the left side, and they were 32nd on the right side.
Oh my goodness!
So I guess 16th in the NHL. That's our defense for the coming year. I don't know, but we've seen a lot of interesting D pairings already. Bixel had a much better game in the first game, and I don't think it's a coincidence that tonight he was mostly playing with some younger guys, and in the first game he was playing with Matt Dumba. Matt Dumba, I thought, for a opening night, first time seeing him in a Star sweater, I thought he played fairly well, and I think that allowed Bixel to kind of be a little bit more free with how he played. But sorry, I lost my connection with my camera. But anyways, we saw that. We saw some other things.
And there he goes.
Oh, he's all the way out now. Goodness. Well, I don't really know where he was going with that yet, but day 1 training camp, I think DeBoer kind of threw out his ideal lineup, like Ryan was saying. It's lefties on the left, righties on the right, and that puts Heiskanen with Dumba, which is questionable. I don't know. What do you think about that, James? Because Dumba is like way less skilled than Heiskanen, and I feel like that might be a holding back kind of deal.
It can be, but I mean, we saw him play with Lundqvist for a little bit too, and that worked just as well. It comes down a lot to the synergy between the two of them, and I feel like that's where it's kind of nice that we have like 3 different people who might work with Heiskanen. Just try them all.
Yeah, and especially since the thing that makes that feel better to me is Dumba playing so well in the first game and really being like kind of quiet. He played 20 minutes on the night, and you really only noticed him when there was after whistle scrums, which is exactly when you might want to notice a guy like Matt Dumba. So he if he can play the stay-at-home defenseman role really well like that, and can just be a security blanket for Heiskanen and let him go up the ice and try and score goals, I would fully take that. With how up and down Dumba has been over the past couple of seasons, it's tough to put him on the top pair and know for sure that he can do it, Yeah.
But I mean, if you can get him into a situation with Ryan Suter, where he doesn't have to be the best player on the team, he just has to be the player who isn't letting in a ton of goals. I mean, you don't have to be ridiculous. You're playing with some of the best defensemen in the league. Just be good enough is what we're asking of our entire right side defensemen, really. All of them. You don't have to be the best, flashiest player. You have to be good enough to play on an NHL roster.
Yes, that's true. another interesting pairing was putting Lindell with Lundqvist. I think that might, I mean, same way that we talked about Heiskanen having a security blanket and Dumba, maybe. I mean, it might be more than a security blanket. It might be a pull lever in a case of emergency kind of deal for Lindell on that third pairing, if that's actually what we come out with opening night. But that could really give Lundqvist the confidence to go make the plays that he shows that he can make, is having a guy like Lindell in the back there. So that's almost equally as interesting to me, is to see if that elevates Lundqvist, and to see if Dumba can play up to Heiskanen's skill level.
And Lundqvist, the problem has never been the skill side for him. It's always been that defensive side, and that one mistake that he seems to always let up that always results in a goal. That's the problem with Lundqvist.
Yep, for sure. Ryan, are you here?
Yeah, I just need to not touch my cords, I guess.
Just don't
It just
move.
keeps
Barely
just
That's
breathe.
what I
don't
was
touch
thinking. I was like,
nothing.
that did not seem like an internet thing.
No, that was not an internet thing. And yeah, Nate over here is like, AOL acting up again. He's like, I haven't heard the word AOL in a long time. Anyways, one of the interesting pairings from tonight that I wanted to talk about that I was very interested in was the Brendan Smith-Lyubushkin pairing. And the reason being is because that is a possible third pairing for the Dallas Stars. And if that's a third pairing for the Dallas Stars, I'm very excited about that, because tonight I thought they both played very well. They had a couple of defensive miscues, but again, it's preseason. They're trying to get up to game speed and everything. But between the two, I thought they played really well together, and that's a lefty righty thing. So if you're looking at that aspect and looking at that as your possible third pairing, you got a second pairing of Esa Lindell, Matt Dumba, and you go with Harley and Heiskanen on the top pairing. I'm not totally against that. And I know that defeats the whole purpose of, maybe why we went out and got all those right-handed defensemen, so that Miro can play on the strong side. But I mean, he's been playing on the right side for 4 years, 5 years, basically his entire career at this point. So he's more comfortable on that side anyway. I would love to see both Harley and Heiskanen on different pairings, but that would be a solid top six for me, in my opinion, if that is a good third pairing for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, that's one good thing about having enough right-handed defensemen now, is now we have options. We can start with that lefty-righty combination, and if either Dumba doesn't work on the top pair or Lundqvist still can't cut it, we have options to move people around and to adjust the way that we do those bottom pairs to make it work out. I mean, having Lyubushkin on the bottom pair, he's great as the bottom pair guy. I mean, as a second pair guy, you're kind of but bottom pair, you love to have Lyubushkin down there. So there's a lot of options that we can go with. I think to start the season, and your ideal, which if you had a perfect world, everyone elevated how they played, having the 3 left and the 3 right is what you want. And you'd have 3 puck movers and you'd have 3 stay-at-home guys.
So what else are we looking at when it comes to preseason with these first 2 games? Anything else that we haven't really discussed?
Tonight there was a little bit of a checking out a fourth line situation, and they actually scored. We had Arttu Huru scoring that first goal in the third period to tie the game, assisted by Oscar Back, who a lot of people after training camp are saying is kind of in the lead to be that 13th forward. And they were with Colin Blackwell, who of course is gonna be a starter on that fourth line most likely. So they even score. Arttu Huru shows he can score with players like that on his side, and Huru looked big, strong, and physical enough to play on that fourth line role tonight too, I feel like. So that was really interesting to see. And if you're comparing Huru to Back, I think Huru got the better of it.
There's a lot of options for the Stars there for the fourth line. I mean, there is quite like a lot of options for them to deal with there. So that is interesting. And Arttu Huru did everything that we expected. He's been getting a lot of publicity.
He scored in all 3 games he's played in.
Yeah, and he's gotten a lot from Stars media the last week and a half. And I hope it's not one of those Fabian Brunstrom moments where he just kind of a flash in the pan and then we never hear from him again. But he's definitely shown that, he should be considered for the opening night roster for the Dallas Stars. I think he's making a strong case of it, and it's not just what he does offensively, but there were several good defensive plays that I saw from him tonight that they weren't like, life altering, or it wasn't like the 2-on-1 with Bixel and then he goes the other way and takes it, and nothing like that, but it was several very good defensive plays. It was just the high percentage play, and he took care of the puck, got it out of his own zone or out of the neutral zone. So that was something that you need a lot from the fourth line. You just need them to not screw up and make giant big mistakes.
Yep, it's the fourth line player making the right plays, and then he's got a scoring touch too,
and that's the other aspect
awesome
of it. He's got the scoring touch.
A
yes.
Pete DeBoer lineup guy. And he should already be in the consideration for the Hockey Hall of Fame just for his name alone. I mean, that's an all-timer.
I couldn't help it, but with all of our group chat with the whole family and with Dad, I posted it on X/Twitter, and there's so many, many different puns. And then there was a Jason Arnott reference, and there was a Frozen GIF in there too, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like I couldn't deal with it, but. It is exciting to see Huru actually in the full game. Now I kind of want to take. Is there anything else we need to talk about preseason wise, specifically with the Stars? Because I do want to talk about Victory Plus for a second.
To pump the brakes a little bit on Huru, he did play all of last year in European hockey, so he's definitely not used to the smaller rinks. He's obviously become accustomed to it very quick. Beck played in Cedar Park all of last season, so he's very comfortable with the smaller rinks. There's not going to be really any kind of learning curve with that at all, and they really like his forechecking style. He's even bigger than Huru, I think, and his forechecking is really what coaching staff are loving about him. Huru is a little bit hotter, but a less known commodity.
Well, honestly, we talk about the 13th forward, but there's room because of the cap and the way that Jim Nill was able to get a really good deal with Harley on it. That there's room for a 14th forward if they wanted to do something like that too. So, I mean, maybe we could see them both make the opening night roster and they just both be scratched. I don't know, but it'll be interesting either way. Anything else on preseason games specifically?
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I do want to get into Victory Plus, and we saw two different formats. We saw the traditional format with the first preseason game, and then we saw what they called Texas Hockey Huddle here tonight. And I don't want to say there was a lot of backlash, but there was more negative comments tonight about the Texas Hockey Huddle than positive. Now, I will give you my take on it. I thought it was fine. I really thought it was fine for what it was. It's a preseason away game. It is what it is. The one thing that I wish we could have seen is just have it blown up, full screen with the game, or even if they wanted to do it, where we can still see the guys, have them in small screens, like at the bottom of the screen, and then the game still in the background, full screen or whatever. I think that was my biggest complaint about tonight. Now, however, the conversation between both of the guys and then the guests that they had in each of the periods, I thought was fine.
That was awesome.
I liked it. I enjoyed it, and it was things that you wouldn't normally talk about, watching a game like that. And then when something got really interesting, then all the focus went to the game, like it should. Like especially the second period, it was just bonkers nuts because of all the power plays that were going on. And then, even at the end of the game, they stopped talking about other things and were focusing on the game. And, it got exciting when Bishop scored the literally the 0.1 second remaining on the clock slap shot that he had. So it was more comfortable. And I think Brooke, this is a very good way to do it. As the night moved on, I got more comfortable with it. That's a good way to put it. And I don't think that we will see something like that in the regular season. Maybe we see it as like an alternative cast, maybe later in the season if there's more positive, talk from this moving forward. But overall, I thought it was okay. What's y'all's opinion on specifically the Texas hockey huddle?
So most of the reason why this happened is, I'm sure, for legal reasons and why they had to have the stream smaller and whatnot. But I honestly really enjoyed it, especially for a preseason game where the game doesn't matter as much, truly. And you got some really cool conversations, like Ryan was saying, throughout the entire thing. And like you said, there were times when it got really exciting and they just pointed out, hey, that was really cool. Let's watch that again. So I enjoyed it, honestly.
Yeah, I did too. And I think this might be kind of a generational thing. Me and James used to watching like streamers and stuff, and we're used to watching people watch things. That's just kind of how we go.
In the family chat, I just typed react content. That's literally what it was.
It's like live reaction videos. But I mean, that's just kind of stuff we like watching more, I feel like. So I think it might be a little bit of a generational difference there. And also, I think when you're on the very in-deep Dallas Stars side of the internet, you're with all the people who are all just as crazy as you are about hockey, and you want to see as much of it as you possibly can. So all you really want is you want to see the hockey. And if your other option was watching it with no audio at all, you would have taken that in a full screen hockey game because you love hockey that much. I think most casual people, when it's a game like this that doesn't really matter, they're much more inclined to watch and pay a little bit more attention if they've got a cool conversation about how Victory Plus came about in the background, and Razor talking about how it's going to help him with his broadcast moving forward. I think that's a lot better way to get your casual fan into the game, into a preseason game, more so than your straight up play-by-play broadcast. And the other thing, like James said, just as the disclaimer, this was not chosen as they didn't choose this over doing the normal play-by-play. It was this, or it was watch the game silent. And I
think it was nothing, honestly.
I don't think
they had the rights to do just the game.
Yeah, really could have been nothing. So either way, you got hockey when you shouldn't have. And some people like me and James actually liked it a great deal.
Yeah, I honestly didn't really have any problems with it, to be completely honest with you. Again, I'm just more traditional. I'm older than both of y'all, but I do still do a lot of the reactionary content as well. I enjoy watching that kind of stuff as well. But it's something that I think I can get used to, and I think moving forward, if they have this as like an alternative thing, I think they should absolutely do this if it gets a lot more positive publicity, and especially with, maybe it's the younger crowd, maybe that, and maybe even younger than y'all. Maybe we see Gen Alpha really kind of latch onto this kind of content for hockey, and if that brings more people into the sport, I mean, do it. I mean, that's absolutely what Victory Plus is all about. It's all about, experimenting and finding out things that is going to grow the Dallas Stars fan base, and to see what other things it can do that traditional broadcasting could not do.
These attention spans, man, they can't just sit down and watch a game. They got to have a podcast and a hockey game at the same time. What happened to this country?
Now, the one other thing that I saw was that, and it kind of made me realize, because I think it was Brooke on X that she was talking about. It made her realize like how much that she relies on play-by-play, while she's watching the game, just to figure out, 46, that was Bertucci, and okay, that was Lyubushkin that time. But I constantly found myself in the game tonight going back to, and now part of it is, there's a lot of players on the roster right now that we're not used to. But I kept looking back at my phone and being like, okay, who's number 46? Okay, all right, yeah, that's Lyubushkin. Okay, number 3, okay, that's Dumba. Okay, 42, that's Bertucci. That was something that I found myself having to do quite a bit in the game tonight, especially.
Yeah, that was definitely difficult. But actually, if you watch any kind of prospect games or anything like that, that's what you have to do the whole time.
That's normal.
Yep. Yeah, that is fully normal when you're watching any kind of games where you don't know the players. You got to have the roster right there. And that's what I did tonight for both the prospect games at Traverse City. The announcers did not know the names of anybody, because why would they? And I had to constantly check down and up, look. Who, oh wow, great play, 32. Who was that? So that's just something normal that happens for prospect games, and yeah, you kind of got to get used to it for preseason hockey. That's what you get when you get preseason hockey. You gotta have the players that you don't know.
So overall, I think they have done a really good job with the product so far. Obviously, there's going to be some bugs because they're doing it themselves. The Stars are literally putting it on themselves, and APMC is doing it for the first time as well. They've never broadcasted live sports before. Overall, I thought it was just like watching the Bally Sports broadcast, especially the first one on Saturday. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was well done, and I think it's only going to get better from here. So that's just what I'm excited about Victory Plus.
Yeah, and try not to forget how bad Bally was. I mean, there was more than just glitches with it. There was 2 games we missed because Bally had technical issues. So if we can just actually watch all the hockey games that they promise we can watch, it's going to be better than Bally.
The other thing that was kind of cool was they did acknowledge the social media outrage that was with the first little bit. They're like, we know everyone's upset that we can't full screen it, but this is what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they did for a split second. There were moments when they did go full screen with the game, but overall they're doing a really great job with Victory Plus, and again, it's only going to get better from here. So speaking of defensemen, we have not talked about the 2 biggest pieces of news for the Dallas Stars, and this was literally the day after we did our episode. So I did an episode with Joey of Locked On Stars, and we were able to talk about it, but we have not talked about it here. First off, we talked about Esa Lindell. He gets a 5-year, $5.25 million extension per year there. I think that's an excellent contract for me. He takes a little bit of a pay cut. Basically, it makes Esa Lindell a Dallas Star for the remainder of his career, basically. And after this contract, if he wants to stay with the Dallas Stars and he's still able to play at a high level, he'll get that 1-year deal, just like Joe Pavelski was getting the last three-ish years. So I think that's a good piece of work by Jim Nill there. And I mean, why not? He's been one of the best penalty killing defensemen in the NHL, and he's definitely been one of the minute munching guys in that aspect of the game. And we already lost one with Hakanpää, and as much as we hated, his 5-on-5 play, Hakanpää was very good on the penalty kill. So it was not a good idea to see him leaving as well if that were to happen next offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Having your number 3 defenseman at $5 million is really good. Is, like you said, your lockdown defensive guy. You never notice him because he always makes the right plays. And the times you do notice him is on the penalty kill. So he already is a top tier defensive defenseman. Plus he is a penalty kill specialist, which is crazy good thing to have, and really good to try and keep Miro off of the PK as much as possible, and to keep him playing on the offensive side of the puck is huge for that. So I think 5.25 is good. It's a little bit long of a deal at that high, but the cap was also supposed to be going up a little bit here, because you expect probably the last 2 years of those deals, at least he's probably going to be playing third pair minutes, actually. Because I mean, if you looked at the day 1 training camp, he technically was on the third pair, but he's not going to be playing third pair minutes. But it should balance out by the time we get to the end there. It's a little high, but to get a guy like that locked down for that long, and somebody who's just a Dallas Star through and through, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid deal.
Yeah, it's nothing to complain about. I mean, he's been solid pretty much the entire time he's been on this team. This is one of those players where you feel like he's definitely earned this type of contract. Even late in his career, he's played so good, always so consistent, never a complaint with him. He seems like a tank. He's played almost, he plays every single game, almost every season. It's something that we don't really notice that much. And it's a great thing to have.
Yep.
And Jim Nill got a little bit of backlash on social media from it. because of the duration of it. Because like you just
It
said,
is a
Chris,
little long, yeah.
it might not look good the last 2 years, but honestly, this is a guy that you deserve your loyalty to. He has been one of the staples on that blue line for a very long time. 3rd round pick. He's done anything and everything you've ever asked him to do. He gets overlooked because of the people that he has played with. At one point, he was a top 2 defenseman playing with John Klingberg there on the left side with him. And now he's still playing in a top 4 role, and he's still eating up a bunch of minutes. He's still playing 18 to 22 minutes a night, depending on, how other defensemen are playing. And the one thing that you can always rely upon is that Esa is like going to make the right defensive play like 99.99% of the time.
Yep.
And there's not a lot of guys like that. And I mean, we talk about Nils Lundqvist. That's the one thing that's keeping Nils Lundqvist out of the lineup is his defense is not there and it's not consistent enough. You know what? Esa Lindell is the exact opposite of that. And that's why he's getting that $5.25 million. So good for him and good job by the Dallas Stars here and by Jim Nill to get this taken care of before it was even a deal.
I just wish he was right-handed.
I know,
Exactly.
right? So, but again, is this, this is kind of something we hadn't talked about. We're kind of getting back to the defensive pairings a little bit, but could we see Miro Heiskanen and Esa Lindell play together?
No.
I mean, I know it's, I know it would be weird and it would be different, but it could be a possibility. I mean, if we really badly want to see Harley and Heiskanen play on different pairings, that is a very large possibility in my opinion, because he is our number 3 defenseman. And if you want to see Harley and Heiskanen separated, that is a decent option. I'm not saying it's likely, but is a decent option.
Yeah, I don't think they need to be separated consistently, though. I mean, if you want to have someone else on the top pair, I think it's going to be Harley. I mean, having that offensive firepower can never be bad.
Well, we've talked about that, we want to see that other offensive side of Miro Heiskanen. I mean, who better to do that than to have a defensive stalwart in Lindell on that top 2 pairing? Anyways, I rest my case. Moving on, we need to talk about Harley. Speaking of that, Harley, I am shocked by this contract. I am honestly shocked. He gets 2 years at $4 million on the eve of training camp. We knew something was going to get done just because there seemed to be no, urgency. Nothing seemed, oh my goodness, it's really scary. Nothing like the Swayman stuff going on in Boston. And when I saw it, I was honestly shocked. Like, I fully expected him to get above 5, and he didn't even get close to 5. He got exactly 4. Just an absolute steal for me. If you're Jim Nill, good work there by Jim Nill to get that contract done.
Yeah, somebody's closer. I was better on my prediction. He was even lower than what I predicted. I think I had just below 5, maybe right around 5, something like that. But yeah, it's a good deal, especially with the cap situation we're in, and given the fact that we will have a little bit more freedom in 2 years as well with the cap, hopefully. Only getting it for 2 years kind of hurts. If you saw 4 for 3 years, boom, ideal, perfect deal. 4 for 2, you'd like that 1 extra year, but we take that for sure. And having
he still is an RFA after this contract is done too, though. So that's a big deal. That's probably one of the reasons why he only got 2 instead of 3.
Would he have been UFA if he went to a 3-year?
I
was trying to see that.
I don't. It would have been 26.
I can't find a way for Puckpedia to tell me.
So the way it works is I think you have to have a certain amount of NHL experience before the age of 27 to be considered a UFA. But anybody 27 years of age or older, if their contract runs up, would be considered a UFA. I believe that's how that works.
So it would have been close. So that might be the case.
But I still don't think that even if he had how old is he now? Is he 23?
23.
So even if he had the 3 gotten a 3rd year, I still don't think he would have had enough NHL experience to be considered a UFA at that point. That I don't not know that for sure, but I believe that is true.
Yeah, so that might have had something to do with it. We're not for sure, but yeah, 2 for 4 is still a good deal for sure. It feels in the same vein as the Lindell deal. Like not perfect, but pretty good.
I mean,
I think this is perfect.
He's basically our second defenseman.
Yeah, based on y'all's expectations, yeah, he's stolen. You got to remember, he only had 1 full year in the NHL before he did that as well, too, which is probably the key thing keeping his costs so much lower than what y'all had him at.
Yeah, but I mean, he's 8th in scoring for defensemen, so goal scoring. Yeah. If he can repeat that even just once, that is spectacular.
Yeah, then he's shooting up there for a long-term deal in the 8s for sure.
So, I mean, what do you expect to see from Harley for this season? You know, now we think about it, like, should we expect him to get back to that, around 15 goal mark like he was last year? Because towards the end of the season, he really fell off in the goal scoring department, and then even just points period in the playoffs, we did not see very much from him, and he really focused on the defensive side of the game, which is fine. But we would like to see that offensive flair that he's got every once in a while. Do you think he stays around that goal, around that 15 goal season kind of thing? Is he like kind of halfway? Maybe he gets like 8 or 9, or I don't know. What do you think?
I really think he can get back to 15 pretty easily. He's a really good shot, and he's kind of bloodthirsty on the rush. I mean, he jumped up a lot, especially with the first line last year. When they had those little breaks, jumped up right with them every single time. I mean, if he's doing that consistently, he's going to get back to 15.
Yeah, it'll depend on how Labushkin plays, and that's kind of to me that's the biggest question mark on the defensive side. Just because we haven't seen very much of him at all. He played well tonight, but again against mostly prospects. So it'll be interesting to see if he can trust him there. The bigger thing for me is, you alluded to, Ryan, is getting that in the playoffs. I think he got into playoff mode. He felt the pressure, and he kind of went back into what he did well when he was called up just before the playoff run the year before, and that was do everything right and don't screw up. And that's not exactly what his creed should have been this playoff season. He was a goal scorer for us. He was a difference maker, and he didn't really force his way into these games the way he did during the regular season. So I think that'll be a big difference. I think that'll be a lesson learned from him from that playoff stint, and I think he'll be a lot better once we get there.
And the contract is different now too. It's not just, I mean, we had those expectations before, but now the money's behind it too. So he should be scoring.
Correct.
Lots of things going good for the Dallas Stars. Victor Plus looks good. Most of the D pairings are looking good. It's been exciting for the first 2 games of the preseason so far. Just the fact we get to watch the preseason is very nice. We've never gotten to really do this other than maybe 1 game, before the season started. So this is fantastic, and I'm just really excited to watch the rest of these games. There's still about 6 left. 6, 7.
I think there's 4.
Really?
There's 6 total.
Oh, yeah. I must be way off then. I'm getting too excited for the.
Well, I don't know. It's I mean, Calgary and Edmonton played 2 games tonight. They're playing 2 games at the same time.
Yeah, the combined score was like 9-2 or something like that.
Calgary killed them. No, it was like 13
12-4.
Yeah,
12-4. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
That's crazy. I saw that NHL.com and I thought there was a bug or something. I was like, what happened?
Nope. Just a couple of split squad games. You see that every once in a while with some teams. So
especially with Canadian teams.
I know that is weird. Yeah. Like Toronto and Buffalo did that actually, because since they're so close geographically. So
and Buffalo's basically Canada.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, they're like 20 minutes from the Canadian border.
We should sell them.
Yeah, they can just get annexed into into Canada. So
exactly.
Well, a couple of other things, just random things. Thoughts are with Pete DeBoer. Hope everything went well with his. Was it his appendix?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they caught it before it actually burst, so doesn't even have to deal with the pain.
That's
Well,
nice.
Honestly, seems pretty fortunate. I mean, he has to deal with the recovery, of course, but it's not like he was waiting around for an ambulance with a ruptured appendix.
Yeah, but I mean, like recovering from an appendectomy is like a week compared to like a ruptured appendix and having to get cleaned out. Basically, that's a several week, almost a month recovery.
We
from
need our
what I
in-house
remember
doctor.
correctly.
Is our in-house doctor in the background here? Can we call him in?
Yeah, sure. I'll get right on that,
Yeah,
Chris.
where is he?
Yeah, with all the extra money that we
Yeah, he
have,
should be
anyways.
on call. I thought we had him on call for until midnight.
Well, I think that's gonna do it here for us here tonight, guys. Anything else we need to make mention of before we wrap it up here?
I don't think so. I mean, after that game, I'm even more excited than I was before, and I was already excited.
Yeah, that was a fun game, penalties aside.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun with the penalties because I was just like, dude, this is nuts.
Every 3
Like,
seconds.
this is a preseason game. We're getting all of this stuff. This is awesome. So, well, anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching along here with us this evening. We had up to 22 of y'all live. There's even more of you who are listening or watching afterwards. If you liked anything you heard tonight, please consider clicking like and subscribe on YouTube if you're doing so there. Or if you're on your favorite podcast platform, please consider leaving us a 5-star review there. sarcasticremarks.com is the website. sarcasticremarksshop.com is the merch storage, the best way to support us and what we do here. And we got lots more content coming to you guys here over the next couple of weeks and into the regular season, where we hope to see the Dallas Stars lift the Stanley Cup. And as always, thank you to BetterHelp and also DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsors. That promo code is THPN, as always. Side note, oh my gosh, my brain just went. I had something and I just completely forgot. Oh, the Roddick Fox St. Louis thing. Did y'all see his brand new face shot?
Yeah, that was
it was so
yeah.
sad. It was so sad. Sorry to end it on a sour note like that. But anyways, alongside Chris and James, my name is Ryan. Catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. And we'll be back with you guys very, very shortly. Have a good evening.